Well, hello there and welcome back. In today's video, I am very excited to share with you a Zill Hero interview with the incredible Audrey Cottet. Audrey is a researcher in the area of finger cymbals, and she has published some incredible works looking back at how finger cymbals are used in ancient history. I have read several of her articles and have been just really inspired by seeing the incredible history of these instruments, how they've been used in a variety of different cultures over time. And in this interview, we're going to talk a bit about the research she has already done, which is open to the public to be able to read online, and exactly how do finger cymbals tie into belly dance, or do they? Right? And then we'll also be talking about how what she has got coming up in ways that you can get involved and learn more directly from Audrey so that you can take your finger cymbal practice to the next level. So I found a lot of inspiration in this interview. I feel like understanding more about the history of the instrument makes me, as a finger cymbal player and a dancer, feel more connected to the ancient cultures where this cymbal, these instruments have been used. And so hopefully it will inspire you as well. So if you are ready to be inspired, please join me and watch this incredible interview with the amazing Dr. Audrey Cottet.
So thank you so much, Audrey, for joining me today. I am so excited to finally have the opportunity to talk to you in person when I feel like we've conversed back and forth, through the internet for so long. I'm a huge fan of your work and really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you so much, Shaira. I'm very happy to talk to you today. So thanks for having me. I also like very much your work.
Yeah, that's good. We can form the mutual admiration society, and we can support each other's work all the time. It's fantastic. It's wonderful to find people who really dive in to the finger cymbals. And I love to watch people who develop their own styles and, really get into the practice of it. But I will admit, there aren't very many people that I've encountered who take it to a level of depth that you do in really professionally researching these in a very academic way. So just in case there are people here who don't know you yet, could you give a little introduction as to sort of who you are and what it is that you do when it comes to finger cymbals?
Okay, so originally I am a physicist. So I do academic research in condensed matter physics at the École Normale Supérieure in Paris. I've done that for more than 20 years now. And so it's an activity which is well established for me since a long time. But outside of the lab, I also dance as an amateur. And I've practiced many forms of dance. And a few years ago, I happened to try a Middle Eastern dance. This was just a random event. And it turns out that in the class that I tried, the teacher once brought finger cymbals. She just brought them once. And I just fell instantaneously in love with the concept, because I found the concept of dancing and producing music at the same time wonderful. And so I wanted to learn more about these finger cymbals. But in Paris, there are very few teachers teaching finger cymbals in dance classes. At the time I started, there was no one. Now there is one who is called Melinda Gillet, who does a great job, but she was not teaching at the time I started Middle Eastern dance. So I decided to go to learn finger cymbals with percussionists. So yeah, so I went to follow the classes of a teacher called Hassan Abdelkhalek, who is originally from Egypt. He has made all the beginning of his career in Egypt, and now he's a teacher in France. He has been a teacher in France since 20 years. And he's teaching many different types of percussions, but he was also giving a finger cymbal class. So it was really great because he was with his darbuka, showing us the rhythms, all the rhythms. And so I learned all the basic rhythms with him. And then unfortunately, there are very few students in France who want to learn deeply finger cymbals. So it turned out that after 2 months, the others, we were only 2 students, and the other student, she just gave up. And so for 1 year, I was alone in this class, and this was a wonderful opportunity for me. So in fact, the teacher, every 2 weeks, he was picking up a new music, and I have to produce a choreography on the music with finger cymbals.
Oh my goodness. This is
Yeah.
this is a class. You really jumped right in, yeah?
Absolutely. And this was really a challenge because realize I started learning finger cymbals with this teacher 3 months after I started Middle Eastern dance.
Wow, Audrey,
Yeah.
I'm amazed. This is incredible. I'm gonna derail. I have all these like questions I plan to ask, but now I want to know, because you learned it from a musician, how do you think that sort of colored the way you play? I'm curious, did he teach, here's what a dancer is going to play on her finger cymbals, or did he teach more of a musician style where you were using like Hannah Morgan, who does multiple sounds and it's more of an accompaniment to the music?
It was between both. He simplifies patterns in comparison with what you do with the darbuka, because he wants it to remain tractable for dancers who do dance moves at the same time. But he wanted me to play constantly. It was just not just an accessory and you do a thing or a thing from times to times, but you had really to play during all the song and recognize all the rhythms which are played in the song to adapt your playing. And so this was very instructive for me. And since I started to play finger cymbals very early in my learning process of Middle Eastern dance, I did not have this difficulty of starting later and being stuck.
I love that you have said this, because this is a little bit of a debate and a discussion I've had with people over time, and I am a giant fan of introducing it early on, specifically for that very reason, because otherwise more intermediate or even advanced level dancers who then decide, now I will play the cymbals, tend to get frustrated easily because you feel like you've gone back to square one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I had the reverse process, which is that I had the feeling that I made progresses in finger cymbals faster than in dance. So at the beginning, to survive with my dance, I had to mix ballet and contemporary dance with Middle Eastern dance because I didn't know enough steps to survive. And then later, I tried to develop my dance.
That's incredible. I love it. And so then you were really like playing the finger cymbals right off the bat with the dance. So even though he was a percussionist and perhaps didn't dance, did he do dance movement with you in the class?
No, not at all. He's just a percussionist. But I was obliged to dance since the very beginning.
Ah, I love it. I love him already. I'll have to look him up, but I love that that's how your progression happened, right? Because I think that oftentimes when people see it as just sort of an intrinsic part of the dance and you're going to do them both together, let's go ahead and do it. There's a lot less resistance to the concept. And so that's
Sure,
beautiful. And that's an
sure.
incredible trial by fire that you
Mm,
received. That's amazing. So now then you had this and you fell in love with the finger cymbals and you
yeah.
started studying and you had this year of private classes, which is amazing.
Mm.
When did you decide to take this into your research realm?
Um, Before answering that question, I would like to add up something because I had a second teacher. I don't want to forget him. This was during COVID. So I stopped learning with Hassan Abdel Halek just before COVID. And then I had online classes with a second teacher who was more a musician approach and who made more complicated patterns, which were direct transcriptions of darbuka solos, which was also very interesting because I learned to develop more a kind of virtuosity and use different types of strikes with the cymbals. And this was online so that I had the recordings. And so I could listen to them again and again and decompose them and write them down to really learn more complex patterns. So sometimes I have fun with this and playing more complicated things. But when I'm dancing, I'm simplifying the patterns to be able to do everything at the same time.
Absolutely.
And so the name of this second teacher is Nicolas de Rolin.
Okay.
And he's also teaching, now he's teaching in Lyon, Nicolas de Rolin. And so now I have a full book of rhythmic patterns for different.
Oh my goodness. Ooh.
I use the notation that you showed in a very nice tutorial with a 1 and a 3 and a 2. You see with the numbers?
Yes.
With me, it works better than the classical notation, which I also know because I play the piano. You see here, there is a piano.
I was going to ask if you had musical training before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I write down everything I learn with fingers in a book like this. And I took this habit a lot during the classes of Nicolas de Rolin.
That's beautiful. I'm definitely going to have to get his information from you so that I can go check out some classes as well. So I love that you had a couple of different influences. You have the piano background, which is incredible. And so now like you're taking some classes, you're adding it to your dance, and then you decide to deep dive into historical study. Like where did that happen and how did that come about?
I've always been interested in history. And whenever I have a strong interest for a practice or an activity, I can't help trying to look at the history of this thing. And when I discovered finger cymbals, of course, I went to try to see first on the internet what I could find. And there was not a lot of things on the history of cymbals. I had the opportunity to follow a lecture organized by Mahin Skiaka for dancers, by Davina, who was giving a talk on the history of cymbals and focusing very much on the history of metallurgy. In connection with cymbals, and that was very interesting. But I wanted to know more, and I started looking at images. And actually, since I am a researcher, I have an easy access to academic reviews, books, because we have a huge library at the École Normale Supérieure. And so I have an easy access to documents. And so I tried to see if scholars had worked on this topic. And I was really frustrated to see that there was not much things on cymbals. There were reports on what kinds of cymbals have been found in archaeological sites for which periods, but not much on the techniques of cymbal playing. And there was one question haunting me, which was, did people play finger cymbals two in a hands in ancient times? That's the first question I wanted to solve. And actually, I was very much attracted by this question, because when you look at a modern finger cymbal, which is used in modern dance, it has this shape, the cup and the flat rim. And in fact, it's very similar to ancient cymbals that you can find in the Roman period, but also before in the Greek period, and even before, up to the Bronze Age. In many different societies, you have the same shape of cymbals. So I was really curious to find if they could play them like Middle Eastern dancers do now. So I started to do this iconographic search. And in fact, what I found out is that before the Roman era, you see a single way to play the cymbals, which is having just one in each hands and doing this, okay? And it turned out that in the Roman period, you can see many different practices. Romans introduced a multiplicity of cymbal playing techniques. And among them, you can find images of finger cymbal playing. So I could find 5 different images showing this practice, 2 mosaics and 3 stone reliefs. And they come from different places. And surprisingly, I did not find this representation in Egypt. I was expected to find this in Egypt, since now it's related to the modern Egypt culture, this finger cymbal practice. But in fact, I found 1 representation in Belgium, 1 in Bulgaria, 1 in Rome, 1 in Syria, and the last one, it's not the origin of the relief is not known.
Wow, from
Europe.
all over, people are using finger cymbals.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not claiming that Romans invented finger cymbals. I did not find representation of finger cymbals before the Roman period. Maybe one day someone will find a representation. So to be fully rigorous. But so far, the oldest representations of the finger cymbal practice known are from the Roman period, between the 2nd and the 4th century Common Era.
Gotcha. And you said some of these are, you expected to find them in Egypt, but you didn't find them from Egypt. And so this kind of brings me to one of the big burning question I have for you, and something that is, near and dear to the story I tell my students when we talk about using finger cymbals, since obviously it's a very big part of my practice and my teaching. And I always contend that these cymbals are an ancient part of our Arab dance practice, our belly dance practice. They have ancient historic ties, and as such, everyone should learn to play them. Whether or not you use them is up to you, but everyone should learn to play them. And now I'm sort of wondering, is that a true statement, or am I just making that up to serve my own Zill needs? Like, how does it tie in as far as representation and research goes to this dance that we all know and love?
Actually, for the moment, I don't know, because solving this question, it's a lifetime project. To solve these questions, you have to study many different time periods and many different civilizations. So for the moment, I am with the Romans. I'm still working on the Romans. But then, to establish whether there is a cultural continuity on this finger cymbal practice from the Romans to the modern Middle Eastern dance, it's a huge work. And in fact, in the representations of finger cymbals, there is a huge gap between the Romans and Egypt in the 18th century.
Oh, that is a huge gap. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm not saying that there was no finger cymbal in Egypt in the Roman time. Maybe some people will discover a new mosaic showing this practice in the coming years, because there are always new discoveries. And since the cultural practices were traveling throughout the Roman Empire, it's totally possible that people were playing finger cymbals in Egypt. They had other practices based on cymbals, like, for instance, cymbal tongues, which is an instrument like this. It's a tongue on which cymbals are mounted, you see? But then 2 scenarios are possible. It's possible that finger cymbals disappeared and that they were reinvented much later in Egypt or in the Middle East, in the Middle Ages, for instance. Or it is possible that there is a continuous practice of finger cymbals from the Roman times to now. But I cannot answer this question. It's too early.
Okay. This is so then the earliest known representation of finger cymbals with Arab dance, then we're talking the 1800s.
It's yeah, beginning of 1800s and 18th century, I mean.
Okay,
And
18th century,
yeah,
1700s.
the oldest representations are known. It's from the 18th centuries, and there is a dancer playing finger cymbals, and there's also a Coptic priest.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the Coptic liturgy, they are using cymbals, and now they don't play any more finger cymbals, from what I know, but it seems that earlier they were playing finger cymbals.
Okay, and that the dancer, the representation of the dancer, it's the two in each hand, the style that we use today?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So I'm not a huge liar. Like I think, I can say many hundreds of years, maybe not as ancient as I might have been insinuating, but many hundreds of years ago, dancers did use these finger
Yeah,
cymbals and
yeah,
use them today.
yeah. And we cannot establish the continuity of the finger cymbal practice for the moment, but the cymbal instrument itself, you can say it's very old.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good.
And,
Okay, good. I'll say that.
and it has really kept the same structure. So I believe that at least this instrument existed continuously, most probably from antiquity to now with this shape.
The
I think
same shape.
that's not something that I've studied in details, but I have some hints, and I believe they were still existing continuously. You have representations of this type of cymbal in the Middle Ages in different places. So
Right. And it's amazing that the symbol is the same. Like the old symbols they have in the museums look identical to the ones that are being produced
yeah,
and played today. I guess if they have a design that works, they don't need to improve upon it, right? Because it's still
yeah.
works.
Yeah, it's a nice design because in fact it's very close to a bell. You have this cup, in fact, and that's why it rings so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's incredible. Okay, good. It was a question that's been on my mind, and I knew that you could answer it for me, so I appreciate that. And so now I'm curious, what is next in your research? I know there's so much more that you can dive into, and I know you have this curiosity for the history. Where is your research going these days?
So my research for the history of finger cymbal is going on, of course, as that's a topic I can stop working on because it's so fascinating to me. So I want to go on with the Roman civilization because I would like to make a census of all existing cymbals which are in museums to work more accurately on the typology of these cymbals because there are different sizes. The shape of the rim can vary also. And so I would like to make a more systematic study on this because there are many cymbals hidden in different museums, and it's not always easy to access information about that. But so I want to make a more systematic work on this. And I also want to go to different civilizations. So presently I'm working on another ancient civilization, but I will not tell about it for the moment. I don't feel ready. When the project will be more advanced, I will tell about it.
Okay.
And so I'm preparing a new study about a new place where people were representing finger cymbal players. And I have another event on the 29th of January. I will give a lecture, which is organized by Mehin Skiaka. So I'm very happy to be in that because this will give me the opportunity to talk about my work with many dancers. And so it's a talk of 1 hour with a slideshow in which I will show these representations and discuss their analysis in detail. And I will also discuss my work on reconstructing the exact way of playing that you see in these mosaics, how the finger cymbals were tied, and also I will discuss how the cymbal tones worked.
Mhm.
And there will be also 30 minutes of questions scheduled in this session, so people can ask me many questions on my research. So this will be on the 29th of January online. On the 20th of May 2023, I will participate to a show which is called Hommage. So this is a show in a theater in Paris. So this is only for people in the area of Paris. And it's organized by my dance teacher, who is also the choreographer of the show. So she is called Sia. And I belong to a dance troupe, which is called the Ballet Egypt Sia. And it's a show which takes an inspirations from many important characters who contributed to the Middle Eastern dance and music. And I have the great honor to give a solo, a finger cymbal solo, a cappella.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are my hero. That's amazing. That's going to be incredible. I'm curious, like, what is your process? Because you've done some a cappella still work before, right? You've worked a bit
Yes.
with a cappella finger cymbals. I'm curious your process as you prepare for this show in May. Like, what is your a cappella finger cymbal creation process?
Actually, I already gave it once in July, because we already gave this show once. And so the concept is to keep the dance relatively simple and to concentrate on creating an interaction with the public. So I play different rhythms and get the public involved to clap in rhythm with the shifteteli, for instance, to do the 3 bits of the shifteteli. And I'm playing and interacting with them during all the dance, and that's very nice. In fact, I was afraid that the finger cymbals would not be sonorous enough in a big theater, but it works quite well, and people were really participating to the dance like I expected. That was wonderful.
Ah, that's so exciting. Congratulations, Audrey. Yeah, that's something I think that is a little it feels a little vulnerable, right? To get out there, just you and like these 4 tiny little discs, and now you're going to
Yeah.
entertain the audience, but it sounds like it was a great success. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was really, and at the same time, it was a surprise, because I found out that you cannot fully control the public. And so at the end of the sequence I was doing, I was playing a regular beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then introducing subdivisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, you see, and the public understood that I was playing faster, but I was not playing faster. I was just adding more subtleties to my playing. And so they started clapping faster and faster. And so I had to make my choreography faster and faster. And at the end, it was really a challenge.
Oh my gosh. That is the beauty of that live interaction. You never know what might
Absolutely.
happen.
But I really did my best to follow them and follow the acceleration, because it was such a good feeling to be in rhythm with the audience.
Oh, that is so much fun. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, hopefully there will be some video of that performance in May,
Yeah,
or if you have video.
yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
That would be incredible. And in fact, if people want to follow you, I'm definitely going to your January lecture. If they want to be able to sign up and follow the work that you're doing, where's the best place to find you?
So I have pages on the social media. I have an Instagram account. I have also a Facebook account. I can send you the links for the show notes.
Wonderful. Yes, I'll link it in the show notes. Absolutely. I have a couple of, I call them lightning round questions, which doesn't mean you have to answer them very quickly, but they can be short answers.
Yeah.
I ask all of my Zill heroes, my finger cymbal players.
Okay.
All right. So do you know how many pairs of finger cymbals do you own?
I think about 25.
Audrey, you have me beat. Oh my goodness, I think you have more than I do.
But I don't feel guilty of buying so many cymbals, because they are useful for my research, for reproducing what I see in mosaics, I use many different shapes and sizes of cymbals. So I'm happy I have all these cymbals.
Absolutely. I don't feel guilty for my collection either, but now I'm going to maybe do a little research so I could buy a few more pairs. That's so good. Okay, do you, for your personal playing, do you prefer brass, silver, bronze?
I like brass. I like brass
Mhm.
because it's a lower tone.
Yep, I'm the same way. I like the mellowness of the brass. I love
Mhm.
it. Now, when you play, I'm curious because you've learned from your musician, do you tend to have a dominant hand lead or do you continuously alternate when you play?
In practice, when I perform, I have the right hand, which is dominant. But when I train, I try to play the pattern and reverse them. Do also with the left hand dominant, because I know that it helps me to develop my playing skills.
Absolutely. It's so good and it's so challenging, isn't it, to reverse to your other. I do it too,
Yes.
and I'm like I'm amazed at how terribly I play left-hand lead. I'm really bad. That's awesome. Okay, one other. Do you have a favorite set of symbols that you tend to use the most these days?
I have several, depending on the circumstances.
Mhm.
I have this model by Gaware Elfan. It's when I'm afraid that people don't hear me, they
Uh-huh.
are the most sonorous that I have.
Wow. And where are those from? I have not seen those symbols before.
They are from Egypt. They are made in Egypt, and you can find them in several shops in Europe.
Ah, beautiful. I have not seen them here. That's
I
beautiful.
have also the one that I like very much for practicing is the Gawazi by Saroyan. They
Hmm.
have such a beautiful sound. It's really a pleasure to play with them. And my third favorite ones is here. This is the Turkish by Turquoise International.
Uh-huh.
And I like them very much because due to this curved border, the tick sound that you get when you clap the cymbal from the side is really beautiful. It's rather sonorous and has a very different tone from the tone that you get when you clap the two fingers like this. You see,
Yeah. Ah. That's true.
and
I don't have a set like that, and I've always been curious about that curved rim because that's not a lot of the older, like ancient, the finger symbols that we see have more of a flat rim. Is that correct? The pictures I've
no,
seen anyway. No.
no. In the Roman times, you can find both. You can find really flat rims like this
Hmm.
and curved rim like this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ah, oh, that's interesting. Okay, that'll be my next pair so that I can play around with the curved rim.
yeah. I like them very much.
Wonderful. Oh, this has been so fantastic, Audrey. I want to thank you again for sharing your research, for talking with me today and allowing me to share this with my audience and just for the ongoing work that you're doing. It's inspiring for me as a dancer who loves the finger symbols. You know, I'm a musician and I just love the idea. I say we are superheroes, that we make our own music as we dance, right? There aren't a lot of dancers who have the opportunity to do that. But I feel like your research makes me feel more deeply tied to a long historical lineage and to many cultures, right? Like not just Egyptian culture, to know that these finger symbols have remained unchanged for so long and have been used by different cultures throughout time in many different ways. I think it makes the practice even more meaningful to me. So I appreciate that. I thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Saira.
Yeah, this
I'm really happy of the interest of the dancing community for my work and being able to bring that contribution. And, yeah,
That's wonderful. You're filling a special need that not many people I think could have done. So I appreciate that you have
sure.
stepped in to help us learn
Uh,
more.
Sure, but we have to take this humbly because we have to be careful not to extrapolate too much on what we see on historical representations and remain careful to build the knowledge step by step and not conclude too many things from what we see. So that's why I think that's a project that I will do over many and many years to bring more and more clarifications on the history of cymbal playing.
Absolutely. And that's a hallmark, I think, of really rigorous research. My husband researches in the medical field, and they're all so careful, right, to say, well, because we've observed this, we cannot assume this, right? It's finding all of those details and not jumping to conclusions, like you said.
Yes,
I think this is all
sure.
just pieces of a giant puzzle that perhaps will never really be finished, right? We just keep adding
Yeah.
pieces to the puzzle to
Mm.
clarify our
Mm.
understanding. And your work is integral in that. And I appreciate it so much. Thank you for sharing it with us today. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you so much, Persaira. That was really a pleasure to discuss with you.
So, what did you think? Isn't this woman amazing? I love that she has taken this instrument with so many of us play. We put them on, we dance around with them, and we don't know where they've come from, how they've been used, and the massive amount of incredible history that lies behind the instrument. I don't know about you, but understanding more about the history of the finger cymbals makes my practice feel just a little bit more special, important, and impressive, right? To know that it is in part we're tied to like an ancient lineage with these incredible instruments, and I love learning about how they've been used throughout time in many different cultures, right? Not just Egyptian culture. I cannot wait to see where her research continues to go, and I will continue to follow her closely. If you are interested in taking one of her upcoming workshops, be sure to follow her online. That way you get an announcement as to where when it is happening, and you can sign up. I will definitely be there at that January workshop, and I hope to see you there as well. Thank you so much for joining me for another in my Zill Heroes series of interviews, and I look forward to making music with you soon.